perfect. Yeah. Thank you. My name is Vance Harrison. I'm the CEO of Motos America, and we've been around for 3 years. I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, but we've got dealerships all over the country, from, say, coast to coast, the west coast to the east coast.
Michael Maledon, I'm a partner with the John Elway Auto Group, and also now the president of our Powersports group that we started about 4 years ago. So we've got 5 Powersports stores currently.
Tom O'Connor, co-founder and president of MotoMate, a trade appraisal inventory management tool that's being used in sales and service in over 430 Powersports stores. It sounded like a pitch. I don't know why I'm up here, but I'm a refugee from the automotive space, and when I got recruited to work with motorcycle stores, I wasn't a rider, so I learned to ride at 34, and I thought, why did I spend so much time in the car business? So I never spent another day after that. So no offense, guys.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the differences between powersports dealers and automotive dealers. Their businesses are very similar, but they're very different. They're definitely birds of a feather, but they don't necessarily flock together when it comes to how they market to customers. So I'd like to have each of you guys comment a little bit about the differences you see in how powersports dealers and auto dealers approach their customers.
Sure. I'll go first.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. After 30 years in the car business and coinciding at the same time with the powersports business and motorcycles, it's really about the experience. It comes down to it. Sounds interesting, but in the car store, it's a high volume, high pace. There's an old saying, the 3 C's: see the car, see the keys, see you later. And and in the motorcycle business, it's all about the experience, the clientele, keeping them in it. I often say it's not about selling one motorcycle, it's about selling the motorcycle lifestyle, and that's what we've got to keep the consumers in and keep them coming back. And I think, like Tom says, we're very fortunate to be in that type of business. In the car world, I came from more of the premium side of it. I did Land Rovers, and so I learned that experiential selling from that type of brand. Mm-hmm. But I think in the motorcycle business, we're very fortunate to be able, if we do that the right way, then that's what creates the longevity of our business.
Yeah, I was talking to Vance right before. Is this on? Yeah. Right before, and we kind of said the same thing. I think we both came from the auto side. I had 20 plus years before we bought our first Powersports store about 4 years ago, and I think me and my partners looked at it and said, "Oh, this will be pretty easy. We're knowledgeable, successful car dealers," and we got into it and quickly learned that it is very different and a lot more challenging in many respects. But I think one of the key differences really is your customer. It's so cliche to say that in Powersports you sell a want versus a need, but it's true. Like in our Chevy store, somebody comes in to look at an SUV, there's a good likely chance that person's going to buy an SUV in the next couple weeks. And so it's all about the features and the benefits and making sure this is the right, and comparing and contrasting against the Silverado or versus the 150, and all that's important in Powersports, but in Powersports, like Vance just said, you're really selling the lifestyle. Somebody that comes into our Harley-Davidson store might be never bought a motorcycle, never even ridden a motorcycle, but he's a dreamer, and you want to capture that person, and so you treat them differently, and you, like the panel before us was talking about, getting them engaged in the lifestyle with our events, and hey, I know you're not ready. You told me you're not ready for another year, but you know what? Come this weekend. We've got a ride. You can kind of meet some of the riders and talk to them, and it's just a whole different. And I think we learned that real quickly, and so fortunately we had wonderful staff, wonderful managers, and we kind of just deferred to them on the sales side and said, okay, you know what? We're not going to change anything. Keep doing what you're doing.
When we see salespeople come over from the automotive side, sometimes we have to slow them down, right? You don't have to, rock and roll as fast as before, and you want to slow the process down. I had a salesman complain about a customer that's in every week drinking our coffee. Don't talk to that guy. I'm like, wait a second, you're complaining about that? You should be happy that your customer wants to come in and hang out and talk about that lifestyle, talk about the rides that they went on or what they have planned, and what do we need to do to upgrade your motorcycle to make it ready for you, when you are in the saddle on that ride. So it's just kind of changing their perspective and saying, yeah, we're going from 4 wheels to 2, but the experience has to look completely different.
That's something that we notice at Babcock's as well. In addition to motorcycle and power sports news, we also have a publication called Auto Success that's for car dealers. And on our MPN website, there's a lot of people that are so enthusiastic about their bikes, they want to learn about how dealerships work. I have never had anybody who loved their Honda Accord so much that they came to Auto Success to learn about how a car dealership works.
I don't go to the Ford store and hang out.
No. So I'd like to shift gears a little bit, and let's talk about technology. All three of you have experience in both Powersports and auto. What are the major differences you see in the technology that supports each of those industries?
Well, actually, I just came from the National Auto Dealers Convention in New Orleans, and I thought, okay, I'm going to take a look what's happening on the car side and then before AIMS, and it is all about technology. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening in that space with AI, as we all know, and so many different vendors that are servicing that. And so on the Powersports side, I've always been passionate about being on the forefront of technology, but it just has been so lagging behind for whatever reason. Maybe it's VIN decoding, maybe it's just not enough money in our industry, not enough dealers that'll do that. And so we've looked at the car business to say, well, what's something up and coming there? How can we bring that in the Powersports side of the business? And we've got a lot of room to grow. I mean, this year it's actually really encouraging to see some new things happening, but it is lagging behind. And I think as dealers, we've got to be on the forefront and be ahead of the curve and look at new things. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I'd echo a lot of that, but I think maybe I'm not as optimistic, because I would say the real difference is, and the reality is that there's just not as much of a budget for technology for our dealerships in Powersports as there is for auto, and that's just the reality. And so I think in auto, we've got a lot of cool, sophisticated tools. Our CRM is much more sophisticated. Our websites cost more. We've got a lot of other cool gadgets in there, from service schedulers, data mining, all sorts of neat things that we pay for that we can afford in the car stores. And in auto, not so much. We have a less sophisticated CRM. We were talking the other day about, does anybody know a CRM that can do video, or can you do video and through your CRM? Nope. If I'm wrong, let me know, but nobody had an answer to it. So many things that just aren't ready in this industry, and so we have to kind of pick where we're going to spend our money, and it just gets back to the basics. I mean, not everything has to be done with technology either. I think the reality is that you just have to do your employees have to do their job, and they have to do it well. I mean, I'll give you a pitch. Or I think this is a great product, and I don't say that just because he's sitting next to me. I think they've in automotive, vAuto is a tool that everybody has to have, and Motomate took that technology, really made it important for applicable for our industry, and they've done a nice job. So that is one of the tools that our Harley stores has at least picked up, and we're going to look at it and expand it elsewhere.
I found myself in the motorcycle business and saw nothing but opportunity. And one of them was how far behind the automotive space we were from a technology standpoint and from a training standpoint. I mean, it was the Wild West when I got into the business, and I loved it. And I still love it today because we get to wear jeans and talk about rides and motorcycles, and right? It's still a cool lifestyle, even though you have to embrace the grind, right? Because it's a grind right now. And it reminds me of something that Gary Vaynerchuk, one of these talking heads on social networks, said. The guy wants to own the New York Jets one day. And somebody said, that's your life goal. Well, what happens if you never make enough money to own the New York Jets? And his answer made an impression on me. He said, it doesn't matter, because I love what I got to do every day to get to that goal. And I thought, man, you got to embrace the grind. For me, one of the concerns that I have, and this transcends both businesses or both industries, BK gets to role play first, is that we pay for these tools and we do a half-baked job utilizing them. It takes me no time to see whether a store is utilizing my software correctly or effectively or fully. And I think if you're doing a half-baked job with my software, are you doing a 50% job with your CRM? Are you doing a 50% job with the other tools that the dealer principal has provided you? So I have non-negotiables. When I sign a dealer up, I go, these are the 3 things you should do. On this page, this is what you should see. Now, it's the check's going to clear whether your team does it or not. But I think one of the things that we have to instill in our Powersports management team and the end users that are on the frontline staff is, let's maximize the tools that were provided for this year, right? Going forward, maximize your tools.
Actually, I came here 2 years ago, and I met Tom. I said, I need a vAuto in the motorcycle business. He's like, I think I got it. And then he really does now.
We weren't ready then. We weren't ready. You know, with 430 stores, the technology is so good right now that if you made a request to me and my team, I could have it in the system by the end of the day or tomorrow. So another thing for me, being a software guy, is I see these, what's my bike worth on your widget, the widget on the website, it's shop by payment. And we looked at that thing because our dealers were saying, you guys got to develop these widgets. These are from the automotive space, and it's 11 button clicks to get through it, and customers are bailing, right? You could see the customers that clicked on it and then never fulfilled or never sent in the request. They're like, one of them is, are you replacing an auto loan? Have you declared bankruptcy in the last 10 years? Who's going to be on the title? Why in the world is that on your website? It's just upsetting today's consumer that wants to put in the littlest amount of information so you can follow up with them and then get what they want, right?
Well, let's talk about the customer experience. I mean, you kind of gave me a good segue for that question. How does the customer experience differ in a car dealership versus a Powersports dealership? I mean, Michael, you've got both right now. You want to maybe start with that one?
Yeah, definitely. In several different respects. I mean, one of my general managers was here, and I asked him to comment, and he actually bought a car from one of our car stores and said, you know what? It's so much smoother in our store than it is going to buy a Chevrolet. And I kind of took, not offense to it, but I just said, really, are you sure about that? But I kind of got to thinking and said, you know what? That probably is. And maybe it's just the perception that it feels less painful. Yeah. Right? Because you come into our store and you want to go buy a Triumph and you're super excited about it, and you're talking to the sales guy maybe for an hour and a half, but you're so excited about it, and meanwhile, once you say yes, the F&I guy's putting your paper together, and you're kind of in and out from that standpoint. And I think in the car business, sometimes it just feels like it takes longer. I think the auto stores get criticized for many things. I think we like to think that we do it better than most, but you know, the reality is that it's not as smooth. I think there's, back to the technology, there's a lot of, at NADA, there's a lot of people out there, or software that thinks it can do better. And I think the reality is it's just, at the end of the day, it's still a people process. And so I think it feels more relaxed because you're creating in Powersports, because you're creating a better one-on-one rapport with your customer. It feels like it just feels smoother.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, they say people don't like to buy a car, right? Yeah. It's a grind. It's like going to the dentist. I think it's rated. But a motorcycle, obviously, it's about fun. It's about excitement. It's about doing. And you're talking about what you're going to do. Where you're going to go ride. What rides have you been on? What's happened? And in the car world, that's not. It's a transaction. Yeah. In the car world, it's a transaction. And you know what? Frankly, as far as profitability goes, they do a really good job with maximizing that transaction. However, they're not building for the future like we're building for the future. So I think part of that experience is all of us as dealers, and especially people that ride. Mm-hmm. And I have a rule in my dealerships. It's all about the experience and about being authentic. You talk about what you do. You talk about the lifestyle that you lead. And in the car world, it's not. But I think there's things we can learn, because it's not just about having a good time and talk about, right, there needs to be a goal behind what we're doing, is closing that transaction, maximizing the profitability in that transaction. So it's okay to have fun, but also knowing in the background we're there for a purpose. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the car side. They know they're there for a purpose. They're executing on it. No problem. We want to have fun and execute.
Yeah.
Mike, do you have a walk a mile program with your organization where maybe a desk manager at a motorcycle store will spend a day or two at one of your car stores and kind of get a different perspective, kind of just to sit at the tower or talk to some customers or maybe some of the frontline staff to steal as many ideas as possible?
Yeah, we don't have anything formal like that. We've had some employees that have made the transition, but that's a great idea. I love the idea. But the reality is, honestly, is I could take, the top sales guy at our Chevy store, and unless he's an enthusiast, he's going to fail in Powersports. He just is. He can come with all the process, and he can learn everything about all of the brands, but unless he's an enthusiast and is a rider himself and really gets excited about it, it's hard to translate that to a customer. So I think we learn that.
That's a great point, and one of the things that we teach salespeople is rider to rider conversations, not salesperson to prospect, right? Yeah. Rider to rider. connect on a human and as a fellow enthusiast first before you try to, do all your needs assessment and, all that stuff. Just connect with shared experiences and a shared passion for hopefully the brand and the sport.
Yeah, and to that, the last thing I want to do when I'm buying a Chevy, because I need it, is I don't really want to talk to the sales guy about his life. It's just again back to that need versus the want. So it's just a lot more rapport building in Powersports versus auto.
It's funny, Mike. When I first bought my first motorcycle dealership and car business, I'm like, oh, it's the same business, no problem. We opened the store. I said, okay, everyone go test ride, right? You're just gonna throw them on the seats and go. No, slow down. We got to talk to them first, talk about what's going on, and that's where I learned. Yes, the backside of the business is the same.
Yeah.
And running it financially, running the backside is the same, but the front side is completely different. And I had salespeople. I immediately hired motorcycle salespeople. That's what they were. They're not from the car business, and they were that authentic. They wore the clothes, they did the rides, they talked about it, and people wanted to aspire to be them. And that's what I think that authenticity is.
Yeah. I mean, does anybody here raise your hand if you've ever aspired to be like the guy who sold you your last car? or going on a drive with them, other than the test drive.
One other way to say it is you can't teach enthusiasm. I can take a very enthusiastic motorcycle rider that wants to sell, and I can teach him the process to be a really good salesperson. I can't take that Chevy guy that's got all the process in the world but could care less about riding. I can't teach him how to get a customer excited about riding if he's not an enthusiast. So I think that's and because of that, it makes it harder to find those sales guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Which puts probably an emphasis on retaining good salespeople, right? Turnover's killing us. And customers don't like walking in and seeing all new faces, right? They want to see that salesperson that sold them 3 bikes.
Well, more importantly, they want to go on a ride with them.
Right.
The power of a weekend ride or doing an event, and that salesperson going and experiencing with them, that's powerful. That's relationship building. Yep. Yeah.
Well, from the perspective of a car dealer versus a power sports dealer, like which one do you think is more prepared or will be more successful at attracting more customers in the next few years?
I'll take this on a tangent here a little bit. Is I think there's a lot of disruption going on right now in automotive that everyone's reading about, right? We've all read about the potential flood of Chinese vehicles that might come in. You've got Tesla and others that have done a really nice job going direct to consumer, cutting out the dealership. I think the automotive dealerships, by and large, are very strong. I think they're going to survive. But I credit the OEMs in automotive. It's been said that Powersports is 10 years behind automotive. I would say with OEMs, maybe 20 years behind. And I can say this because in yesterday's Garage Composite talk over there, Sam Danzer was kind of lamenting on the fact that there's not enough OEMs here with us, and that's disappointing, right? I mean, it's got Triumph here and Cowie and Honda, but it's unfortunate that we don't have better partnerships in this industry that we do in automotive. And I think in automotive, by and large, they've figured it out. They have really strong retail networks. They don't play the gimmicky games of most of them don't. The gimmicky games of the sales incentives that if I've got to sell this number of units, otherwise I lose this amount of money, or I've got to take this many, if I don't take all my wholesale allocation, I get dinged here, which creates a lot of price disparity. And yeah, there are still some OEMs in automotive that are still doing that, and we know who they are, and they're struggling.
Yeah.
But you know what? Toyota's never done that. Porsche's never done that. I can reject all my Toyota allocation, and it's not going to cost me anything, but I want all my allocation. And same with Porsche, and even same with Chevrolet. I mean, I think that's the biggest issue I see in this industry is I think the OEMs have to stop playing that game that's causing price confusion, that's causing discounters, that's jamming us with wholesale inventory that we have to fire sale to get out from under it. To some degree, it's over-dealered. If you look at, Polaris has 1,400 dealers. That's more than Toyota. Toyota sells 2.2 million cars. Polaris sells 300,000. I mean, do the math. And so I think I like to think that the OEMs are going to figure it out. Otherwise, we wouldn't be invested in this industry. But to answer your question, who's better positioned for the future? Automotive right now, and in Powersports, I think the OEMs have to figure this out, and we've got some really strong ones. You know, again, Honda doesn't play that game, Kawasaki doesn't play that game, but some of them are playing games that are short-sighted and are not helpful for the dealer body in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, Michael, that's a phenomenal point. Think about this. If you had your car dealerships, you ordered all your inventory a year in advance. What? You got to be kidding me, right? I mean, that's what we do. That's what we do. And I had an OEM come to me recently and they say, how do we increase margin? You know, how are we going to increase margin? I said, well, it's supply and demand. Don't stuff us with bikes, and then we've got to fire sell everything off, you know, in the middle of the year, at the end of the year. And that's a huge transformation that our industry needs to take. And there are some great OEMs that have great programs, and they can be modeled after that. But you know, these OEMs will come in and say, you know, as your dealer order, you've got to plan a year ahead. It just doesn't make sense. So hopefully we'll see some advancement that way. You know, I am optimistic. I think there's so much disruption in the car world. So much disruption with electrifications happening or not happening, you know, in our industry with obviously electrification. But I'm a little optimistic in our world in that we've been underperforming for a long time in some ways. And I think we've seen, you know, I say it since COVID, you know, people want more experiences. I think that new generation, you know, as the boomers are aging out a little bit, that new generation, they want an experience. They want to go somewhere for a long time. They want community. They've not had it. So I think we'll see some growth, and there's a lot of opportunity. A lot of our OEMs, there's a ton of opportunity for growth if they just figure out how to become, you know,
Take a page out of the playbook of Toyota.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's
right.
just it's
Yeah.
they've never had to play those games, and they've got the most desired franchise in automotive.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
And a good product too.
Yeah. Well, I want to stick with the OEMs for a second. Let's talk about marketing support and how you feel the OEMs in automotive versus Powersports, you know, support their dealers with marketing and driving demand to the store.
One of the first things that I noticed coming over from the the auto side, was that the events that dealerships put on. I was like, wait, what a great way to get people on the property and engaged with the product and the people. And so I don't know if they do that in the automotive space. I've been out of it for a while, but the events that dealerships put on that attract their customer base and prospects is fantastic. Now, what we see in too many places is a lack of effective follow-up afterwards to keep their arms around those opportunities. So I always look at it from a training standpoint, a process standpoint. Okay, we created all these opportunities for marketing, but now what do we do from a sales side? How do we make it pay off, right? So I'm always looking at that end of things, not the marketing side. I don't know what they do. It's a mystery. But when they create opportunities, let's make sure that the sales team and the management team is on point.
Well, it's a great point. In automotive, we keep talking about it, but you know, their processes are tight. You know, they've got a strong CRM system. They've got a strong BDC system. They know how to follow up with that customer and how to mine the data. The difference, though, they don't do the events that do that, right? There's no, not really a reason. Now, I'll date myself a little bit, and I'll say, I mean, when I went with Land Rover in 1998, they were all about experience. We had to do a quarterly event. We had to get out there and ride the vehicles. It was a tough product. I mean, 1998, 99, those are tough years, but people enjoyed it. They liked the experience side. So on the marketing to it, cars is just so generic. I mean, it's, as we know, it's just so homogenized and it's everywhere. And how do you really make something cool in a car? I mean, there's ways, but in motorcycles, again, it's all about the events. It's all about engaging your customers, getting them to ride. Yeah. I remember the first Ducati dealership I had, the dealer sold 60 bikes in a year. He said, we're not going to grow anymore. We've sold everyone that wants a Ducati, that's it. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Okay, cool. And then we'd see these bikes come in with no miles on them. They just didn't have any miles. And so we immediately, they came in our store, got into our experiences, got people riding. Well, we tripled that in the first year because there was a demand for it, but people needed to get out and ride. So I think marketing between the two is very different. In my opinion, it's about you market the lifestyle. We want to inspire someone to buy from us, not ask them to buy from us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where cars, it's, hey, 0%, $5,000 rebate, $10,000 rebate, whatever it is, We'll take it. So I think it's harder. It's a more difficult path to market, but it's also why we're in this business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to add. Obviously, with auto, there's so much money in the tier one advertising, right? You watch the Super Bowl, it's going to be Chevrolet, it's going to be Ford, it's going to be, you know, they can afford that stuff. And so I think most of the time when we get a customer in automotive, they've done their research. I mean, they need a four-door sedan, and they've got these Ford that they're looking for, and our job is to tell them why the Chevy's better than the Ford's better than the Toyota, or whatever it is. And so I would say in our industry, again, those OEMs don't have that budget. I'm not expecting Can-Am to run national ads at the Super Bowl. What I am expecting them to do is give us a great product, right? And if you give me a great product and you don't overproduce so that me and my competitors are all racing to the bottom in price, then it's our job to create the experience with the customer, to have the events, to draw those people in, to draw those people into the lifestyle. So I'm not necessarily looking for the OEM to spread the word, other than if you build a great product, the enthusiasts are going to do their own research, and they're going to be researching the Polaris and the Can-Am and the Kawasaki, and they're going to come to us and ask us to educate them on that.
Well, Tom, you know, I have a solution to the problem that you brought up about, you know, you have this great event, and then, you know, what happens with all those opportunities. When you get home, get an LPR camera, license plate reading camera, hook it into your software so that everybody that comes to the event, you can put it right into the CRM, and boom.
You guys use that stuff?
Me too.
It's like Oracle stuff. This is like,
That's a great idea.
I mean, we're getting grid mapped by all these companies, right? There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to somehow harness the people that are at the event. Or you're talking about people that drive by too, aren't you?
Yeah. You just put a
Scary.
camera on your sign, and every single bike that rides by or comes into your parking lot, you know who they are.
If you have a camera, I mean, if you have a phone on you, obviously everybody knows everything, right? There's no hiding. And I think that's good with the younger generation that's in stores today. I think they embrace technology. They're not afraid of it. They know how to, you know, move a mouse, and they know how to log in and stuff like that. So I think it's good too. Most of them do.
Yeah.
Most of them do, yeah. But we have to drive behavior as well. So what I found is it was more regimented in the auto world as far as what my daily responsibilities were. They were more well understood. And when I got into the motorcycle business, people were hanging out, right? They were just kind of hanging out. And we find that massive activity leads to productivity. So that's one of our mantras, right? So we set goals for activity for everybody every day to drive the behavior that gets us the results that we desire.
Well, this last question I have for you guys, if you want to think for a second about it, but I sent you the questions in advance, and I had said, you know, what's a great lesson that you learned in automotive that you brought to Powersports? But I'd like to change that question. You can answer it in either direction. What's the greatest thing that you learned either in Powersports that you took to automotive, or that you learned in automotive that you brought to Powersports?
It's different than what he asked us. Okay.
Yeah.
You didn't prime us for that. Okay, great. You know, in my situation, it's actually it went both ways, because I took from automotive that experiential into motorcycles, and then I just grew up from that side, and then I pushed it back on the automotive side to it. Now, I was more successful in the motorcycle side to it. I was a Mitsubishi dealer for a short time, and I built them out and made great, you know, off-road tires and racks and everything. No one cared. They didn't care. They wanted the payment. Can you get me bought? You know, can you get me approved? And what's my payment? That didn't work very well. But on the bike side to it, we know accessorization is critical. And so, you know, taking that. I keep saying experience. I'm sorry, but it really is the secret magic to it, because when you buy a bike, you have to accessorize the bike. You know, Harley obviously does that. Well, when you buy a BMW Venture bike, you've got to have all the accessories to it. Yeah. And so you've got to remember, and you know, I have a lot of staff in my showroom floor like, oh, we don't want to put the accessories on it. No, that's what you do. That's how we do it. And I think the other big piece to that, learning, again, I'm going to say from the automotive world, they do something that is frictionless, and it's coming. You know, a buyer now, they want to be able to go online, see the information, save that information, and then come into the dealership. Imagine this. Our buyers that buy our bikes, they have a Toyota, they have a BMW car. When they get it serviced, what's that like? They get a video of their car, they get a text way to pay for it, they can approve everything on it. They come to our dealership, what is it? What time you come in? Okay, maybe it's a paper RO. I mean, I don't know, but you know, yeah. It's extremely antiquated. So, you know, there is a side that we've got to remember. There is a fit. Watch the automotive side, what's going on, and implement in your dealership in a small way those best practices.
Yeah, good answer there. What I would say is that coming from auto to power sports initially, again, it was kind of initial shock because it was not, there was a lot more different than we thought. But I'd also say that one thing that helps me better understand our automotive world is that you don't need all this fancy technology. And I mean, I know we're at a conference here and people are selling technology, but I want to demystify it a little bit. Like you said, at NADA, if you go to NADA, there's like 4,000 booths there of people that are selling all these little widgets. And I think every year in automotive, we're game for trying a lot of different stuff. But at the end of the day, being in this industry, it's just confirming that there's no magic bullets out there. It's just back to people and processes. And I think that's the one thing that there are some core technology that you must have. You must have a CRM. You must have processes that you're training your people on how to do that CRM. I think there's a lot of things in automotive that a couple of the dealerships that we acquired in the last 4 years weren't really using a CRM. And so I think just getting your basic technology in place, getting your basic processes in place, again, this is a terrific tool. I think this is almost a must-have. You have to have something like that. But other than that, a lot of the stuff that we've tried in automotive, it's neat, but you know what? You can replicate it with just good processes. And I think so it's given me a good perspective when I go back to our Porsche dealership or our Chevy dealership, and they've got this new automated, it's AI for answering phones. I'm like, why doesn't the parts counter guy just answer the phone?
Yeah.
And so he's not very good at it. Well, let's train him. How about that? Yeah. And I think that and I would say the same thing for power sports. A lot of the things like you're saying, we can do really professional looking ROs and the technology's there in light speed, but do our people just not know how to use it well? Let's train them how to use it well. So it's people and processes, and I think it kind of demystified a lot of everything for us. It's just, we know what works, let's train our people, and let's treat the customer the right way.
I had a hard time getting excited about selling a Toyota Camry for $400 under invoice to people that have been in the country for 60 days. It was hard. It was a grind. I had 55 salespeople. I had 6 managers. I had a 9-person BDC. We sold 650 cars a month, not nearly as big as some stores, but it was a grind, man. It was stressful. I think it was negatively affecting my life and my health, and I went into the motorcycle business and thought I died and went to heaven. I said, wait a second, I get to wear jeans and ride motorcycles and talk about it and share those experiences with people that sometimes are coming in for their first bike. And I mean, I tell my salespeople at my stores that I train, I go, you're doing important work. Never say just. Right? You're not just a salesperson or a fit specialist or a product specialist. You are performing important work that helps change people's lives. And if you sell fun and you're having fun doing it, it's contagious, right? So that's the thing I learned, is I could have fun and leverage all the processes and all the technology and all the stuff that I learned in the automotive business and pair that with a passion for something I never knew I was going to have until somebody told me you got to learn to ride motorcycles at 34 years of age. And I was like, why haven't we told more people about this? They're like, yeah, dummy, that's why we recruited you. That's your job. So it's been a great life, and I see nothing but opportunity heading forward. I don't look at the speed bumps. I look at the open road. Where are those opportunities, and how can I help my team capture them?
Now, Brian, there was one question you teed us up for that I wanted to address. And you said, what is one thing that we would suggest to the group here that's a takeaway that they can implement in their stores?
Yes.
And, we're all about passion. That's what we do. We love it right in the front side. However, as we've gone in and acquired stores, we've looked at the back side of the business, the financial reporting, the financial tracking, KPIs, what's going on. And traditionally, it's a disaster. And so what I would say as a takeaway, especially if you're to the age that maybe you want to sell your store at some point, get your financials straight. Do a financial statement, get KPIs, set goals in your dealership. Do those types of best practices. That will probably have the greatest impact of the value of your dealership. When it comes to sell, right? You don't have to go clean it up. And so I wanted to suggest that to the group here of get the back of the house right. Get it cleaned up, and you'll be surprised the front of the house will work and have a good time, and you'll actually end up making money.
Is there anything you guys would like to share?
Yeah, I think it just in answer to that question about, we've talked so much about sales and the difference in sales between automotive and power sports. So I would say the one thing that translates pretty well is fixed ops. I think that's we're proud that we've raised our fixed ops year over year. Variable, it's really dependent on what the economy does with tariffs, no tariffs. But I think fixed ops, and so I think if you can learn anything at these conferences, there's been some great speakers. There's great consultants out here. But just the things that we do in automotive that are just religion in terms of tracking your open ROs and your parts obsolescence, and most of the stores that we've gone into didn't have those processes, and I think we've trained those processes, and it's really had an important impact.
And I would just reiterate what I said earlier, which was one of the commitments that I would ask is go back to your store and I know that we expect from the top down, but we inspect from the bottom up. Inspect everything and take the rose-colored glasses off and just look at it from a business standpoint. If you talk to a sales manager and say, what's our conversion ratio on internet leads, and they don't know the answer, you got a problem. If they don't know how many leads there were, how many appointments were set, right? This is where the rubber meets the road. We have to inspect from the bottom up and take a look at tool usage. Look at 10 customers that got put into your CRM and look at the notes. Could you have an intelligent conversation with that guest based on the notes that were put in by the salesperson, right? I tell people, you want to explode your income, change your thinking, right? And you'll change your income and put better notes in for every single prospect, right? Because the human mind is for problem solving, not storage. That's what CRM is. Just dump everything in there and move on to the next prospect. And when you do your follow-up, you can read those notes and say, I remember exactly what I need to say to this person to get them closer to making a buying decision. And of course, I end with, don't forget to sell fun. It's what we do, right? We still sell fun.
Well, does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask? Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Vance mentioned selling parts and accessories. No offense to you guys, but you're mostly talking about selling motorcycles. That's just half the business.
You're right.
The other part is parts, accessories, service, which a lot of people forget, especially I've been in the 20 group. It's all about the motorcycle sales, but what about the parts? What about the accessories? What about the service? That's as important as more.
For those of you that didn't hear, Mark is saying that, we talk a lot about sales, but that's only half the business. The other half is parts and service and gear and stuff like that, and we're agreeing with him.
Well, that's an excellent point that we should have brought up, because that is another big difference between automotive. I mean, we don't have a rally type of thing in our automotive, other than selling Jeeps. Jeeps, we kind of similar, but I think you're absolutely right. And so that's something that we've taken a fresh look back to our automotive stores and say, hey, what are we doing to that guy that's buying a Chevy Blazer? Are we kind of walking him through the different accessories that? And so I think you're absolutely right. There's a big opportunity in automotive to get that done better than but yeah, big difference there. And again, we inherited stores with great managers that already had great processes, but big difference between what automotive does not do.
Well, and Mark, you know this, we talked about it, and hope there's no OEMs here, but what does the OEM want you to do? Sell the unit, right? But the reality is what we have to do is we've got to service that unit. That's what brings the customer back. A great, strong service department that's professional. Not only is that, is a critical piece of our profitability, but that brings the customer back in. And that will service the unit side to it. But us as dealers, listen, I'm from the sell side. I love to sell units, but when we go remodel a store, the service department, we double the size, because we know that's the throughput. That's what makes a big difference long term and what happens. And in the motorcycle business, it's all about accessories. And making that switch over, and Harley does a phenomenal job with it. The dirt side does. The European side of it, we can improve a lot, and we need to. And it's sharing that information with people, and and it's really understanding. If you're authentic and you know why you want that heated vest, and you used it on your last ride, you'd say, hey, you need that. Yeah. It's a big difference than someone just looking on a website and seeing. Right? So
I'm never introduced to other departments when I buy an automobile, but when you go buy a motorcycle, you get that VIP tour, what some of us call a ticket to ride. once that commitment's made, you get to meet other people in the store, or we do VIP tours in order to help us get value to exceed price, right, prior to the presentation of figures. But for stores that give VIP tours, they give the ability of the customer to meet like-minded people in each department. Like, man, that guy in the parts counter was cool. That lady in service was awesome, right? I'm confident she's going to take good care of my motorcycle when I bring it in.
We do the tour, but there's just not as many people that want to soup up their Corollas, so it's...
Yeah, go ahead.
How do you guys, I imagine I've sold cars and I've been in the motorcycle business. I know that the financing side, it's a lot easier to get someone in a car than it is a motorcycle or a side-by-side, whatever. Is there any, how do you guys approach that in terms of getting a credit challenge guy on a motorcycle that's considered a luxury item versus the car, which is, you guys make it happen?
You tell the bank he's going to save money on his gas mileage, right? His payment's going down.
Unfortunately, I don't have a great, because you're absolutely right. I mean, the rates and the depth of buying in Powersports is nowhere near what it is in automotive, and so it's a big challenge in automotive, or I mean in Powersports. I wish there was lenders. I mean, I'd love to hear some shout outs as to who people are using for, but it's tough. We lose so many more deals in Powersports because of credit challenges than we do in auto. In auto, I can get just about anybody bought. Not the same in Powersports.
Well, there's a much larger demand in auto too. That's why, because there's a lot of, everyone needs to have a car, and that's part of our industry. But we have 4 subprime lenders, really main ones, and cars have hundreds, and so it's a huge opportunity. I looked at our portfolio, and we're not funding anyone less than a 650 credit score. Just insanity. That's insane. And so, that's an opportunity for all of us to go do. But it is a little bit of a different business model, for sure. I mean, it's a different business. What you're talking about is a little bit different at getting approved. But it's a huge opportunity. And our industry, if we can bridge that gap, again, that's where an OEM can come in and say, hey, let's buy a little deeper. And I think Harley Financial is a good example of that. But it's a huge inefficiency, for sure.
It was brought up the issue with turnover. This has been a problem for a long time. I just want to found that in Johnstown, improve or lessen turnover, and how to get employees to consider this as a long-term career as opposed to so motorcycle cars. It seems to be that it doesn't turn into.
Well, Sean, and you're exactly right. People that work at our dealerships are there because they're passionate about it. They're not there because of the money. I mean, in the reality, right? And so I think the best way, one thing that we really do, and we're continuing to improve on. In fact, we're just rolling out our training program. Is training. How we engage our employees and our teammates, I should say, with the training side to it. But getting them to participate in the lifestyle. I keep talking about it. Getting them to remember, you need to go ride your motorcycle. You need to go do that, because that's why we're here. You've got to share that. And it's a big push. And then when they go ride it, you want to share it social media. You want to incentivize them to do that. And so we have an internal incentivization program that we incentivize our employees to go out and have those experiences, share those experiences. They need to own one of our branded bikes. We incentivize them to do that. So if you can give the ancillary benefits of the lifestyle, not just monetary, I'm there to make money, that creates the longevity side to it. But it is difficult. I think Sean's only worked for BMW for 28 years or.
I started at the dealership level. Right. So I've been a technician, I've been a service man. Seen the challenges.
It honestly, in my years of experience in the business, and even running another company before that, it's the hardest thing in business is retaining employees, and that's where, again, I don't want to say that we're anti-technology. We've got some of the best technology, but adding new technology is far less important than making sure that the people the people feel comfortable. And so it just gets back to, there's tons of great YouTube videos and everything else, no matter what industry, about how to treat your people and making sure that they feel part of the team and that they feel that there's advancement. So we're doing very frequent reviews, and because we now have 5 dealerships, there's opportunity for us to promote a sales guy here that becomes the manager over here. And I think, and so I think it's just really, again, the little anecdote where I said that, we've got this new technology that's AI answering the phone. That's all well and good, but you know what? If I lose that parts manager, it's going to take me 6 months to replace them. And it's just so, it's really about, exactly your point, making sure that your employees feel that they're part of the team and that they get excited about coming to work for us, because they're constantly getting offers everywhere else, right? And particularly our good power sports people can make a lot more money in automotive, but they're enthusiasts, and they feel I'd like to think that we give them a good reason to feel comfortable as part of our team.
When people leave, we find out why they left. We find out too late instead of finding out earlier what would have made them stay. So that's, yesterday I mentioned this job motivator worksheet, and I'll email it to anybody that wants it. It's a very cool list of, why do you work here? Why do you work in this dealership? What I want to ask them is, put a 1 next to the most important thing on this page. Right? And one of them is, you'll be surprised, it's not, I want to make a good income, I want to make a great living. It's, I want to work for somebody that's fair and equitable. That is one of the ones that people, they want to feel appreciated, they want to feel like they're an important part of your success. And, they got a lot of things going on in their own personal lives, right? I mean, life is hard, but you might as well kick ass and have fun while you're at it. So find out. I like my management team to know what motivates every single personal employee, right? Are they money motivated? Are they acknowledgement motivated, right? They want recognition. Do they want to just feel like they're working for somebody that cares about them and that they can trust? And if you find that stuff out, I think it goes a long way to getting into the core of that person, not just as an employee, but as a human being. And so, if you know more about what motivates your team, I think you'll know more about how to keep them happy. And there's plenty of dealers that'll say it's too expensive to train them, because what happens if they leave? And I say, if you don't train them, what happens if they stay?
Yeah.
Right? And I'd much rather work.
To send people out to Palm Springs in 2 weeks.
Oh,
2
yeah.
months, right?
Yeah,
So BMW's for,
Yeah.
but to your point, I'm sending out a couple of employees to BMW training in Palm Springs. It's going to cost me a lot of money, but these guys are so excited about it that they're investing in me. So, absolutely.
Yeah. One thing, Sean, I'll tell you, OEM side, they should celebrate training. So they used to do master technician plaques, recognitions, those types of things, and it's dropped off a little bit throughout manufacturers, because it is important to celebrate training. Now, one thing that we do, our training program is a little bit different. I'm talking about an internal dealership training program. Technical training is something different, but training your staff internally to help them grow, help them become a better employee, but also help them, motivate themselves, mindset training, some personal development is a big piece of what we do as well, because if we can grow them as an individual and make their life better, make their coming to work better, we'll benefit. Listen, they got to push bikes out every day. This is a tough damn job. It is. But on the weekends, you get Sunday and Monday off. Car business, we're like, what? You got to be kidding me. But it's true. It works. And the idea behind that is you get 2 days off, go ride, go do something, and push them. If they haven't ridden in a long time, done something, push them to go do it. Send them to do something. Send them to Palm Springs.
I should have, that should have been the first thing, the difference. Because anytime one of my employees says, hey, I'm thinking about going to sell cars, I'm like, you're going to be working 7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't tell me that. Yeah, okay. So.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The amount you make per hour is the same.
Yeah.
Vance, you mentioned that you had a program where you incentivize your people to post on social media of them riding. Like, how does that work? What's that look like?
So we have an internal social media platform, and we're continually improving it and doing different things. But they'll have an internal contest as well of going out and listen. If you get so many likes, or take a picture here, and share that on social media, then you'll have recognition. One thing that's great, again, it's part of our training we're rolling out. We have internal point system that our employees are rewarded points on training or for contests, and they also reward each other points, and then they can cash those in to go do an experience, or do a ride, or buy a new helmet or tires, or whatever that is. So we're trying to get engaged in the in the employee recognition level to get them to go out and do that. It's different than money, right? We're not pushing them for money. We're pushing them to go out and live the lifestyle.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Are the challenges of selling F9 products similar or different in industries?
Yeah, there's a lot more success in auto. I mean, it's a challenge in power sports. Again, starting with higher interest rates. When you're buying a bike and it's already 12% interest, it's hard to find room for additional product. But it's I don't know if anybody was Greg was at AST yesterday. Yeah, the Vision. They have great numbers to share, and it's interesting. He was showing that the pie is kind of flipped in automotive. Three quarters of front and back gross comes from F&I, and 1/4 comes from the front. Whereas in this industry, it's flipped. 3/4 comes from front end gross, and 1/4 of it comes from F&I. So Harley Davidson you can much better penetration there. But that's the value of those bikes too. When you're buying a $40,000 bike, there's a little bit more room. When you're buying an $8,000 Honda, it's not $500 PVR is going to be hitting home runs. So it's a challenge, but it's also opportunity. There's a couple of the stores that we bought really didn't even have an F&I department, and so we've gone from 0 to $400 PVR, but that's something. And I think and you got to remember too, it's not just a profit center. One other thing I was going to mention, and things that I would recommend is priority maintenance. A couple of our dealerships weren't selling priority maintenance, or they're using primary priority maintenance as just an F&I generator, and even self-underwriting it, so creating a nice pool of money and hoping the customer doesn't come back and use it. That's so short-sighted. We sell priority maintenance. We want the customer to redeem it. We want them to get back into service, and so we focus on increasing F&I products, mainly service, priority maintenance, not only for F&I, but mostly to build the back-end business. And I think that's probably why we've seen our numbers in finance go up, because we prioritize those.
It's interesting, and that's a great stat of how much profit comes from what area. And I think actually in our industry that's off, because a lot of dealers don't do a good job in F&I. We buy stores the same way. We look at what's their F&I department doing, what's their service department doing, where's the opportunity. And to your point, in the motorcycle business, the F&I products are actually a really good value. I mean, think of tire and wheel, right? I mean, you only have two. So it's different, right? Think of battery for life. That's a great product. Here's one in the auto world: theft, right? Theft protection. Well, auto world, no one ever use it. On a bike, if your bike is stolen, it's not coming back typically, and if it does, you don't want it back. That's a great product because it covers the accessories. So I think it's really about education and training, and we work really hard on that. There's a person sitting behind you that built it out for me, and she works really hard doing it. But it's always something that we're challenged, but we're pushing really hard on the finance side of it, the best that we can, because it drives business to the back end of the dealership, back to the service department. Maintenance is the critical piece to it. So I think it's about really training. And that's, again, for those of you that don't have an F&I department, that is a huge area. You can double your net profit just by installing an F&I department.
Well, that's all the time we have today. Thank you guys for taking the time to join us, and thank you guys for sharing all that great information.
Thank you, Brian.